Jenny and Paul had been looking forward to their honeymoon for months. They had met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's party and immediately hit it off. They shared a love of adventure, nature, and travel. After a romantic proposal on a hot air balloon, they decided to tie the knot. For their honeymoon, they chose Tiger Beach, a stunning spot off the coast of West End Grand Bahama Island in the Bahamas. They had heard it was one of the best places to enjoy the clear blue water, the white sand, and the diverse marine life. They booked a cozy bungalow at a beachfront resort, where they spent their first 4 days relaxing, sunbathing, and making love. They also explored the nearby town, sampled the local cuisine, visited the shops, and mingled with the friendly locals. They felt like they were in paradise and couldn't be happier. On their 5th day, Jenny suggested they go snorkeling and wildlife watching at Tiger Beach. Jenny was fascinated by sharks, especially the tiger sharks. She assured Paul it was safe as long as they followed the rules and stayed with the guide, Carlos. They rented snorkeling gear and joined a group with Carlos, an experienced shark expert. He explained the safety precautions. Stay close to the boat, don't touch or feed animals, and don't panic if they see a shark. Carlos said tiger sharks were usually shy and rarely attacked unless provoked. He assured them they might see harmless sharks like lemon or nurse sharks, and maybe even hammerheads or reef sharks. Carlos had a radio and first aid kit on board for emergencies, and he promised a fantastic time with incredible sights. Jenny and Paul felt reassured by Carlos's words and enthusiasm. They put on their masks, snorkel, fins, and life jackets and followed him into the water. They were amazed by the beauty and diversity of the underwater world. They saw colorful fish of all shapes and sizes, swaying coral formations, graceful sea turtles, playful dolphins, and even a stingray. They felt like they were in a dream. They followed Carlos as he led them to a deeper area where he said they might see some sharks. Jenny was excited and hopeful, while Paul was nervous and cautious. They scanned the water for any signs of movement or shadows. Suddenly, Jenny spotted something in the distance. It was a large, dark shape that moved slowly and gracefully through the water. She recognized it as a tiger shark. It was about 15 feet long and had distinctive stripes on its body. It looked majestic and powerful. She tapped Paul's shoulder and pointed at the shark. Paul saw it too and felt a surge of fear. He wanted to get away from it as soon as possible. He looked at Carlos for guidance. Carlos saw the shark too and signaled them to stay calm and still. He said it was normal for tiger sharks to approach divers out of curiosity. He said that it would swim by them without harming them. He was wrong. The tiger shark changed its course and headed straight for Paul. Its mouth gaped open and revealed its rows of razor-sharp teeth. It bit down hard on Paul's left arm and shoulder. Paul felt an excruciating pain as the shark tore into his flesh and bone. He screamed in agony and terror. He tried to fight back by punching and clawing at the shark's eyes and gills with his remaining arm. Jenny heard Paul scream and saw his blood spilling into the water. She was horrified and panicked. She wanted to help him but didn't know what to do. Carlos heard Paul scream too, and he knew something terrible was happening. He knew that he had to act fast. He grabbed his paddle and swam towards Paul and the shark. He hit the shark's snout with his paddle as hard as possible. He hoped that this would make the shark release Paul and flee. Every paddle hit reverberated throughout the shark's body and Carlos's arms. The shark let go of Paul's shoulder, recoiled in pain, and retreated to the ocean's depths. Upon releasing its deadly bite, the extent of the damage was unfathomable. Rows of puncture wounds lined across Paul's shoulder. Torn flesh and ripped skin exposed parts of his collarbone and shoulder blades. Despite being repulsed by the scene, Carlos grabbed Paul's arm and dragged him towards the boat. He shouted for help and told the other tourists to escape the water. Jenny tried to stop Paul's bleeding with her shirt. She cried and prayed for his survival. Carlos called for beach rescue, applying pressure to Paul's wound to keep him conscious. Paul was in shock, losing a lot of blood. He felt cold and weak. He smiled at Jenny, expressing his love for her. Jenny held his remaining hand, reassuring him that everything would be fine. They rushed Paul to the hospital. Jenny accompanied him while Carlos stayed with the other tourists. He apologized, calling it a freak accident he had never seen before. At the hospital, Paul underwent extensive surgery to save his life. despite having his entire arm amputated. Paul survived the harrowing ordeal in the face of one of the ocean's fiercest predators. Paul went on with his life, although with the aid of a prosthetic arm after months of recovery and therapy. On a warm summer day in 1911, the sun began to set over the shimmering water of Aliwal Shoal, casting a warm, golden glow on the beach. Zuri Nwachukwu, a 15-year-old boy passionate about the ocean, stood at the edge of the surf with his two companions, Malik and Gamba, both 16 years old. They were eager to spend the evening riding the waves and enjoying their summer break. Aliwal Shoal is an enchanting submerged reef off the coast of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. The beautiful tranquil water beckons adventurers and ocean enthusiasts alike. Its crystal-clear waters and teeming marine life create an idyllic setting for swimmers, snorkelers, and divers. But beneath the serene surface lies a thrilling secret: the presence of the magnificent tiger sharks. With their striking striped patterns and imposing presence, they reign as the rulers of these waters. As Zuri and his friends walked into the water, they were having a great time, laughing and splashing around. They had no idea that this day, which seemed so perfect, was about to become a terrifying experience they would never forget. The group was having so much fun, frolicking and splashing around, enjoying the freedom and joy of being on vacation. They didn't notice the dark shape lurking below them, watching their every move. Suddenly, they saw a dark fin coming out of the water, cutting through the waves like a quiet hunter. The three friends noticed it and looked at each other with curiosity. They had heard stories about sharks in these waters, but they never thought they would actually come face to face with one. The fin swam past Malik and Gamba, not paying any attention to them, and then it targeted Zuri. The massive 13-foot tiger shark moved incredibly fast, its cold, lifeless eyes fixed on him. Zuri's heart pounded in his chest as fear paralyzed him for a split second, before he turned and tried to make a desperate escape towards the shore. As the predator closed in, its movements were too swift for Zuri to react in time. With a vicious and relentless lunge, the monstrous tiger shark sank its razor-sharp teeth deep into Zuri's right calf, tearing through flesh and bone. The excruciating pain shot through his body, causing him to let out an agonizing scream that echoed across the water. Blood stained the once serene ocean as Zuri's cries for help were drowned by the terror that gripped his friends. Fear and panic overpowered them, and they ran frantically toward the safety of the beach, leaving Zuri to face the gruesome reality alone. As Zuri struggled against the currents in the water, the fierce shark attacked again, going after his right arm with its deadly maw. The impact was terrifying, and the powerful bite from the shark cut off Zuri's arm below the elbow, causing a terrible and horrifying wound. The pain that hit Zuri was unbearable, overwhelming his senses and making it hard for him to see clearly. Despite the agony, Zuri tried his best to stay above the water, using all his strength and determination. He kicked and paddled desperately with his remaining arm, but it was tough. Breathing became a struggle as he fought to stay afloat in the relentless waves. But the shark was not done yet. Driven by its insatiable hunger, it lunged at Zuri again, its lifeless eyes fixed on him with a chilling focus. In a wild and violent attack, the shark lunged at Zuri repeatedly, tearing into his abdomen and chest. The once serene and inviting waters were now transformed into a horrifying scene of carnage, as the powerful predator shook Zuri's body with terrifying force, as if he were a mere rag doll in its jaws. As the relentless assault continued, each passing moment became a desperate struggle for survival, with Zuri's life hanging by a thread. The overwhelming pain and shock began to take their toll on his body, pushing him to the brink of surrender. Meanwhile, Malik and Gamba, still close enough to witness the harrowing scene, were gripped with a paralyzing mixture of fear and disbelief. Their hearts pounded as they watched their friends' horrifying battle for survival. They were frozen in place, unable to comprehend the nightmarish reality unfolding before their eyes. The massive shark engulfed Zuri in a horrifying flash, its deadly jaws clamping on his mangled corpse. The once lively and energetic boy was now helpless, caught in the powerful grip of the unyielding predator. As the waves crashed around them, Zuri's lifeless and broken body was pulled further down into the deep and dark parts of the ocean. He vanished from the sight of those above the water as the sea hid the gruesome and terrifying scene. A short while later, the waves washed Zuri's remains ashore. They were barely recognizable as that of a human. They were a mangled mess of flesh and bone covered in bite marks and blood. They were a gruesome sight that shocked and horrified everyone who saw them. Both Malik and Gamba were among the eyewitnesses to the horrific events. They had witnessed their friend's brutal death and had done nothing to intervene. They had run away from him, leaving him to die alone. The trauma and guilt they felt would remain with them for the rest of their lives. Arif Wijaya was a young fisherman who had spent his entire life living by the seas of Nusa Penida, southeast of Bali, Indonesia. He would venture into the deep waters with every sunrise to earn a livelihood. Fishing was not just a way of survival for him. It was a bond he had forged with the vast oceans surrounding his island home. One bright morning, as the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Arif set out to sea with his closest companions, his childhood friends and fellow fishermen. The weather was serene and the waters calm, which foretold a prosperous day of fishing. Excitement and laughter filled the air as they embarked on their journey. As they sailed further into the blue expanse, a strange sense of anticipation hung in the air. The waters seemed unusually quiet, as if nature itself held its breath. Suddenly, Arif's sharp eyes caught a glimpse of something ominous lurking beneath the surface. A massive shadow approached their boat with purpose, a tiger shark. Fear gripped their hearts as the monstrous creature closed in on them with alarming speed. Arif and his friends strained their muscles, trying to paddle away from the looming danger. But the shark's power was unmatched. It rammed into their boat with an overwhelming force, toppling it with an ear-splitting crash. Chaos erupted as the men found themselves submerged in the unforgiving sea. The cold water embraced Arif's body, and his heart raced as he struggled to regain his senses. Panic and adrenaline coursed through his veins as he surfaced to find the terrifying sight of the shark circling nearby. Without hesitation, Arif began to swim frantically towards the distant shore. His friends were equally desperate, each fighting for survival in the vast expanse of water. The shark, however, was relentless, closing in on them with each passing moment. As the ocean's apex predator closed in on Arif, it moved with lightning speed, its jaws wide open, revealing rows of sharp teeth ready to cut through his delicate flesh. The creature's jaws snapped shut around Arif's leg in an instant. The sheer force of the attack crushed bone and ripped through layers of flesh, creating a gory spray of blood that mixed with the surrounding seawater. Arif's screams were drowned by the vast ocean as he desperately clutched his mangled limb, his vision blurred by shock and agony. Despite his struggle, the predator was relentless, showing a chilling display of primal brutality. With a violent jerk, it started dragging him deeper into the dark abyss of the ocean. The water around him turned murky with his own blood, and the weight of his waterlogged clothes made it even harder for him to escape the creature's clutches. Each movement intensified the torture coursing through his shattered leg, and he could feel the creature's teeth digging deeper, threatening to tear his limb apart. Time seemed to slow down as Arif grappled with the realization that he might not escape this horrifying encounter. He could feel the pressure of the ocean weighing down on him, threatening to suffocate him as he struggled to free himself from the relentless jaws of the tiger shark. With adrenaline coursing through his veins and an indomitable spirit of self-preservation, Arif fought back. He would not give up without putting up a battle against the shark. Though his vision was unclear, Arif kept pushing, scratching, and clawing at the predator. He was hoping to land a blow to the shark's sensitive nose or claw at its eyes or gills. He was willing to try anything, hoping it would make a difference. Miraculously, his attacks hit the vulnerable spot. Arif managed to claw at the shark's eyes. He knew he had to hold on and never let go, as this was the only way he could deter the shark's attack. The shark jerked violently and recoiled in pain, giving Arif a short respite from the gruesome ordeal. Arif pushed himself upward with a newfound resolve, using all his strength for the tough challenge ahead. The pain in his badly injured leg was excruciating, as if sharp needles were stabbing into his bones. The salt water seeped into his wounds, making the arduous journey toward the surface more excruciating. The journey to the water's surface felt like it would never end. Every stroke required a tremendous effort, and Arif's heavy limbs protested against the strain. But driven by sheer determination, he kept going, getting closer and closer to the life-saving air above. Finally, it was like he was rising from the depths of darkness. Arif's hand broke through the water's surface, and he desperately gasped for air, his chest heaving and his heart pounding like a drum. Yet the momentary relief of reaching the surface was overshadowed by the looming presence of the shark below, a haunting reminder that danger still surrounded him. His blood trailed behind him in the water, serving as a distressing signal for the relentless predator that persisted in its pursuit. His friends managed to reach the shore and watched in horror as the terrifying drama unfolded. Desperate for Arif's safety, they braced themselves to dive back into the water. To their relief, they saw him resurface. They rushed to pull him to safety, his injured leg trailing crimson in the water. With trembling hands, they applied pressure to the wound, doing their best to stem the blood flow. Arif's breathing was labored, and his eyes reflected a near-death experience. With immense effort, they managed to carry him back to the village, where the island's limited medical facilities were put to use. The village elders gathered, offering prayers and remedies passed down through generations. It was a race against time, a battle between life and death. Arif's physical wounds began to heal as the days turned into weeks, but the psychological scars ran deep. He found solace in the arms of his family and friends, who rallied around him, assuring him that he was not alone in this struggle.